All right, we're back, Modified family. We are getting the band back together, and by that, I mean the GSR is getting back together with all its Type R internals. We are measuring oil clearance on the main bearings because the ones that came with the crank when it came back were the wrong ones, but I ordered the correct ones of the same brand, just trying to stay consistent. And so we're gonna check that out. All right, so give me 5 on my black hand side and let's go. So this is actually where we left off last time. We were making such good progress, then we hit a snag, which was that the main bearings we had the tang, which is that little piece, bang-a-rang, the tang, focus, dang it, that thing. Had one on like the left side and one on the right side on the top, but on these, one is to the, let's say, left side, and then the top one in the middle. Is in the middle. Actually, be the bottom when we turn this thing over, but the top from where we're looking. So now we have the right one. So they're dropping right into that little spot and holding, and then we will put the corresponding one like that in top, and then they will get all torqued down in sequence incrementally until everything's tight, and then we'll be able to measure that oil clearance. Maybe not the most interesting thing to watch, but I am super excited because I'm learning to do this, as well as one step closer in this motor being back in the car and running. Uh-oh, he's breaking stuff. So my housemate is classically hot rod trained. He is now using a bore indicator. So we looked up the specs for this. These inside ones are 49, and then these outside ones are 56. Yeah, so you just kind of bump them down, get them all kind of hand tight basically, and then you go in stages. I think we hit 30 across the board, and then 49 across the board, and then got these outside ones to 56. So now he has this tool called a bore indicator, I believe what it's called. It's a little T, and now it's going to go inside here, and he's going to measure each of these, and I'm going to do my part of writing it down on that paper so that we remember. Last time we went through and did all 5 of these, and then we realized we didn't have the bearings in, so the reading we got was not helpful. So continuing on. All right, so the reason we use that, what's that thing called again?
Bore dial indicator type thing.
Bore dial indicator. We use that because even though it's not precise, it's more accurate than the plastic gauge. And that plastic gauge seems like it takes for damn ever. And so we went through all the mains, and they are all about the same within 0.02 thousandths, 10,000ths. It's pretty close. It's very close. Also in the mail for this project, we got this from Wesco. Came in a huge box, this little thing, and it's boom. It's this little metal cuff. And so you've seen those typical band type ring compressors. This it's tapered, so it'll go over this and then allow these to slide right into the correct cylinder. So I'm super excited about this. So yeah, this is coming back apart. Now we got those measurements, and then we're gonna do a little bit more cleaning of the inside of here, just so some of this, more of this oil and contaminants, get this out so everything can be fresh and clean. And then I think we'll measure the crank. Yeah. Right? And then I think we get down to piston time, which I'm super excited about. All right, this is my brand endorsement. Bam, I love oven cleaner. I think the generic stuff is stronger than the name brand stuff because they're not trying to cut corners, just straight caustic chemicals. So a little bit of that, a little super clean, a hot bucket of water, a couple scrub brushes, and a toothbrush. Don't tell my wife. I don't want her to know that I can clean this well. But we just got in there, got things cleaned up real quick. right? I'd cleaned the outside before, but now I was able to do a little bit more and able to get the sides. And a lot of these things you will not actually see when the motor's together, but getting a lot of the contamination, dirt, grease, like old grease out of there, let new stuff come through is going to be great. You know, that's all it takes to feel like I got a show motor right here. It's going to be so clean, and I'm excited. So now we're going to push it outside. We're going to get it cleaned and dried, and then kind of somewhat oiled up before we move on to some of the next steps. Back outside to the windiness. Yeah, so this thing looks amazing. Yeah, it's an oven cleaner and super clean. A couple scrub brushes. This is going to be our end result. Spent a lot of time with the pressure washer, just getting it everywhere we could. You know, out here was not the most important or pertinent thing to hit, but just as much as we could in here, just getting this a lot cleaner than it was. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous. I love the way this looks. But yeah, air compressor is all filled up, so we're going to go through here and blow all this out, because obviously bare metal and water are never the combination that you want to stick with. And then we'll get back to reassembling things. It's like night and day. The air compressor was not working. The circuit kept tripping, probably because it's wet and we haven't built a little shed for the air compressor to be protected from the elements. But we need to get this thing dry. It cannot stay wet. So, I mean, is this the correct way? Apparently not, but it seems to do the job. Of course, avoiding the couple rubber hoses, the new ones we have on there that we just put on there a couple videos ago. But yeah, we're getting it dry again, and surface rust is damn near instant. And we had honed the cylinders, so we're gonna give them a quick re-hone just to make sure they're clean, and so the reassembling can continue once we're dry. Progress is being made. Oil squirts are back in. I think it's been lubed up with some WD-40 just as a water barrier and a protectant. These portion of the bearings, so the main bearings, are back in, and so apparently factory ones don't come grooved, and some sets come grooved on both sides. Ours is grooved on one, so it's like semi-race. Like usually race ones are grooved on both apparently. And then a very important but non-essential box right here. I made sure I put that in. So, I mean, this bad boy is ready to go. So now what happened is we pulled the crank out, and it's, of course, more of the same measuring. You measure once, you measure twice, then you measure it again, because that's probably wrong. So right now we are measuring the journals, and then I'm going to have to write these numbers down, and this will also need to be washed. I said I need to wash it 3 times to make sure any possible contamination or anything that's not supposed to be on there from the remanufacturing process gets cleaned off before it's safe to be gently dropped in there. When does the cleaning ever end? We had to measure and then measure again to make sure that we were within spec, which we are, between the size of the crank journals and the main bearings with the all assembled. We got the measurements for both, and then we are between 0.009 and 0.0017, because we are at 11 and 12 respectively, which kind of puts us right in the middle right there. And then I took this inside the house, gave it a good scrub. I started with Dawn just to get any grease, and I cleaned up that toothbrush we had been using with more super clean, then some super clean and hot water at the same time, and just got it cleaned. Then spent a lot of time drying it with a microfiber towel, and then got in here with some WD-40 just to make sure that these were coated while the rest of it was drying. Over here, Block City, over here, ooh, we got some of that nice, it's just like kryptonite for Superman. Was doing great for the build. Those are all oiled up, ready for that crank to be brought over here and sat into place.
Inside where?
Each other, so they face each other. All right, so this is the most important part of the build.
So this or this?
Other way?
They go this way.
Oh, they go that way. Okay, so they go in like this with the little grooves facing out, away from each other. See, now the crank's sitting here, but as it sits in here, it moves. It slides on those things, and the crank thrust washers hold the crank, so when you push in the clutch, a nice stiff racing clutch, when it pushes in, this thing doesn't keep moving over. In my silver hatch, my 2000, that's actually what the picture is on this thumbnail. That is what happened. The person was like, it's a 0 miles motor I put together myself, and the crush, I think there might have only been one, and it was not doing what it needed to do. So every time you push in the clutch, it would push the crank over, and the pistons would drag on the wall of the cylinder because it would get pushed over, and it would drag, and it would score the crap out of them till finally the thing just let go all the way. And there was so much metal, and I luckily was able to save the top end. Zeronius went through it and got that working. And then the bottom end was trash. I ended up selling it to somebody. I'm like, hey, this could be usable, but it's going to need a lot of work. I'd never had anything machined, so I didn't realize how expensive it was. And I drove up north to, I want to say Los Banos again. I've gone there a bunch of times. Oh, and breaking stuff. I went up to Los Banos, found a complete GSR bottom end, took it to the machine shop. They said everything in here is great, but the block's no good. So the crank went into Zero's hatchback on the other side of the wagon, and I had to drive down to LA and spend, I think I spent $600 on the first one to have the machine shop tell me it wouldn't work. And then I spent another $650 on the second assembled block, and then that one was good, but there was just a little score in one of the cylinders that was deep enough where it had to be bored to like 81.5, I think, over from 81 millimeters. But that one still runs to this day. It's still in my silver hatch right there. So yes, we're paying special attention to making sure those are in there. After the main caps go back on, and these are all situated, then we should be able to start getting the pistons in, I believe. So get ready for that. All right, had to see how she spun, and very well. If you go back a few videos in the series, you will see that when I spun a bearing, this thing would not turn to save its life. That's why we pulled it originally, because in lieu of finding out what was wrong with it, we're just like, hey, I need to get this car back on the road so I can daily it. And so motor came out, and it sat for a long time. And the question was it the head? Was it the block? And we found out the problem was in the block. But yeah, after sending it to Northern Auto, getting that fixed, Zero with the math skills and measuring everything. All right, so a big step in the bottom end rebuild is complete, because now that's spinning. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be bolted on, but I think we're gonna flip it over.
Yeah, we gotta measure the rod oil bearing clearances.
Yes, rod oil bearing clearances. Bam. Kind of same thing we did on the main bearings, but for those, and get those specific numbers written down in the notebook. That way we have it for later. All right, so I misspoke earlier, so I want to correct it's not Westco, it's Wiseco, W-I, not W-E. So, yeah, so this is like tapered, so it should be wider at the top, and then it should match perfectly with the 81. Bam, look at that. It's like extended cylinder. So all the rings are on in the correct order, and then I watched the video, but we also looked it up how to clock it. So this is the intake side over here, and it says your first ring should be like over here, second ring this way, third ring is right here, and then the little skinny ones that go around it split it about 15 degrees on each side. So we're clocking those real quick, getting a little assembly lube in here to make sure that it's nice and slippery. We re-separated the bottom piece of the connecting rod. So now, feasibly, this should just go in. It's the phrase that pays. That looks pretty good. So far, so good. We're doing one together as a team, and then the rest will be done off camera, because they should all go on the same way. See, it says in on the top, and it's facing the intake side. Ooh, ooh. And just make sure it's lined up. Do you want a hammer or something soft to tap it in? Oh, no, it's going. It's going. Oh, 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 oh. This is suspenseful. I don't know if you can, I can see my breath. It's cold in here. I can taste the tension. Just a little bit more. Ooh. Don't you want to go home? Just tap, tap, tap it in. Making sure that it stays in line so that it will meet the crank right where it should. And it's not all cockeyed and twisted. It looks like it's pretty darn straight though. Boom, as good as gold. On to the next 3. And then we turned it sideways. We had to make sure that we got that bottom cap piece on here. Yeah, that one. And so that takes a 12-point socket.
7/16.
We're running a 7/16. I think that 12 millimeter was close. It's kind of between an 11 and a 12. Yeah. And 7/16 fit just perfectly snug. And so now we need to torque these to spec. And these go to 45 foot-pounds, I believe.
Yep.
We've already done this a few times because we had to make sure that those they had the right clearances, which requires torquing it down before you put it in. So ooh, yeah, we close. Little by little, back and forth. Waiting for that click. Oh, there's 1. And 2, that's the process. All right, repeat that at home. Don't blame me if it breaks. I'm still learning. That's just so smooth. All 4 cylinders are in. They're torqued, and they're moving in sequence like they should. Everything is good. Extra WD-40 in each one of the cylinders just to keep it nice and coated. And then this is where the project sits for today. Thanks for coming along. If you have any questions, I will relay them to Zero because you know I don't know the damn answer. But yeah, everything was weighed out, measured again, cleaned again. It's definitely an intricate process. It's taken a while, and I hope I condensed it down to 20 minutes or less. Engine building for dummies. I'm the dummy, but the engine is built, so I'm pretty stoked. All right, Modified family, I'll see you next time.